Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to a new episode of Chatting with Lady C. Hello, Mum, how are you?
Hi, hun. I'm well. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Nice. Alright, so we're going to start off straight away.
Like the beam in your eye.
What?
I like the beam in your eye.
Wait, beam?
The beam.
Wait,
the joyous beam in your eye. Oh.
Maybe.
Mickey wants to say hello. Do you think Mickey wants to come up?
maybe, I don't know. Alright, so we're going to start off with our first questions today. So for our first question, once Mickey's up. Alright, so for our first question today, is from Sweet Pea. Lady C, how would you react if Misha or Dima fell in love or became engaged to a woman like Meghan? And how would you treat the woman?
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Well, I presume that questioner wants to know. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. I presume that questioner wants me to assume that Meghan Markle is what other people have said she is, namely somebody who is narcissistic, manipulative, devious, attention-seeking, and opportunistic, let's put it that way. So I would imagine that really the questioner, because this has, I gather, come up in various guises recently, that people want to know, how would I deal with somebody that either you or Dima came up with who was narcissistic or suffered from narcissistic personality disorder. And so if we can exclude Meghan Markle from this equation for legal and practical purposes and just address the issue of how would I deal with somebody who is ruthless, self-aggrandizing, worldly, ambitious, and not really a nice person. Well, of course, I have a lot of experience with people like that. I had a mother like that. And the one lesson I learned in life is don't give them a chance. Batten down the hatches. If I thought that either of you was involved with a narcissist or somebody who was amoral or ruthless and unscrupulous or so ambitious in a worldly sense that she left very little room for humanity, I would simply, once I came to the conclusion that this was the way that girl was, I would actually have to say to either of you boys, honey, I think you're making a mistake and I cannot give you my blessings. And at that point, I would hope that ultimately your good sense would prevail. And in the meantime, I would exclude her as much as possible from my life. Because I do not think that people like that change. I don't think there's any point in giving people like that a chance to change. Because if they change anything, it is their behavior to fox you, to let you think that you were wrong about them when I would know I was right. And once, you see, I let my mother back into my life, and it came back to bite me. And I don't regret having done it. It was the right thing to do, uh, but I paid a price for it. I paid a very high price, uh, but I don't regret it. She was my mother, and God, in His wisdom, chose that mother for me. And so, on spiritual grounds alone, I needed to work through that. And I also do believe, honour thy mother and thy father, that thy days on this earth may be long. And I mean, Mummy was not 100% awful. Nobody ever is. But I would never let another mummy into my life, because people like that, no matter how long it takes, they always will foul in your nest. They can't help it. So, what do you think of that as an answer?
It's your answer, it's not mine.
But
I disagree with this question.
you do.
Well, completely. I don't think you have a say in people in somebody that wants to date someone else.
Oh, I'm not saying that.
Well, clearly you are. You're saying that you would never want us to date somebody like that, but if we're happy with dating somebody like that, I don't
But
see
I
why you
did.
have a say.
Oh,
So
but I didn't say I would stop you.
I didn't say you said that.
I wouldn't. I didn't. I wouldn't. You know, I wouldn't. I agree with you that it's not in my place as a mother
Look,
to lead my children's lives.
everybody says Meghan and Harry, wow, wow, wow. But look, Harry seems completely happy to be with her, and if he wasn't, he wouldn't be doing everything she wants to do. So I'm sorry.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I've seen that dynamic. I also saw it with my father. You know, when people like that wish to act up a storm, they act it up, and that's one of the hooks with their victims.
I mean, a relationship is a relationship. You start off without not knowing what you're going into, so I don't see how a parent should have a say into it. I think a parent should only have a say into it maybe a year after, because at least the parent will have met the person, taken on stuff that probably the son or the daughter has not picked up, and then can give her advice and say, okay, I really don't like this person. I've seen this happen too many times. I think this person isn't, but in the end of the day, it's your choice. You do what you want, but I'm giving my opinion.
No, you're right. You're
That's how
absolutely
I
right.
see it.
You're
That's how I
absolutely
see
right.
it. Like, you shouldn't judge a relationship on the first minute.
Nobody's saying, I wasn't saying that though. But no, I think you're absolutely right. It's up to each of us
And
to
again, it's up to the person that's dating the person. If nobody likes that person, but he's or she is all right dating that person, in the end, it's his last word, isn't it?
That's right, absolutely. And you have to respect that.
And he might be doing the wrong choice. He might find out later down the line. It's
And
always later down the line
yes.
anyway.
But you have to respect somebody's right to do what they want to do and to make their own mistakes.
Yes,
you
but
know?
like I think this question is very like, when I look at it, it's like something that you would ask your parents from like 50 years ago. I don't go around saying, "Hey, mom, do you like this girl that I'm dating right now? What do you think about her?" I think it's because back in the days, also parents used to set up marriages, so the children didn't even have a say. So
Well,
it's
you had a
even
bit of a
on
say.
more
You did
unfair
have a say.
back then, but now it's like, I think what I like about now is like, it's your opinion, and usually it's some, like we've seen in a lot of cases, it's a bad opinion, and they end up breaking up a couple of years down the line, or even dozen of years down the line. But hey.
I think, though, the point, I would imagine the point the person was trying to make is, would, say, the royal family have thought that Meghan was not suitable, and uh, and but Harry overrode them because he thought she was suitable.
Yes, but what she's done as well, she's not a typical person that we're talking about. She's come in, acted like a sweetie pie, and changed the complete phase as how she acts now. So she acted like that in front of them. She's got the bag. She's acting completely different now. Where usually when you start to date somebody, in the first couple of weeks, you sort of see their who they're really going to be.
Yes.
And from there you say, okay, I'm not going to waste my time
Well,
with this person, and just leave it. Or if you like the person and nothing wrong, you continue.
Well, practiced con artists con. They gain your confidence. That's what a confidence
That's why I think
is.
It's something, like I say, you see in a year's time, as you can't really judge somebody into the first reactions, because a lot of things come out are roughly in a year's time. You find out a lot of surprises that you didn't know, and stuff that you might be like, hey, I can't work with this, and you just change and you move on, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't stay with you anymore. Or it's something that you find out, you're like, I can work with this, let's try and make it work.
Well, I do think, though, each of us has to lead our own life, and I certainly led mine. I mean, I eloped because I knew Daddy and Mummy would, especially Daddy, would definitely disapprove of Colin. So
So you went your own way.
I did. I married in haste and I have repented at leisure. Shall we do the next question, honey?
That's true. You should never rush into things.
No.
You should always consider a little bit of time and then move on. All right. So for our next question, it is from Kim Finley. Do you think Meghan actually gave birth to Archie, or did you... Sorry. Or did she use a surrogate?
Oh dear. I don't think. It's not my role as a biographer to think. Well, you talk about dropping me in it. Let me put it this way. I have received so many letters from so many members of the public drawing my attention to details that when I was writing my book, I had absolutely no idea about. I honestly know that something there. Crikey, this is really difficult. I think so many people have drawn so many nagging details to my attention that what I can say with absolute confidence is that Meghan Markle clearly and deliberately used Archie's gestation period as a means of gaining a lot of attention for herself. Her conduct throughout was not regularly royal. In fact, it wasn't even regularly ladylike. Whether she did it mischievously, unintentionally, or calculatingly to create a controversy, because I do believe, actually, that Meghan is a fame junkie. and that she is an attention seeker. That baby's gestation period was the most wonderful time for her to keep herself in the forefront of everybody's attention. People have brought my attention to various anomalies, such as the fact that the bump in certain photographs, and I'm now referring to photographs from reputable photographic agencies like Getty, that Meghan's bump would be tremendously bigger at the beginning of a week than at the end of a week, or at the beginning of an engagement and at the end of an engagement. These have many explanations. But this is the sort of conduct that Meghan indulged in that has invited all the speculation about whether she ever really was pregnant, and whether the baby was born of a surrogate. Now, I have received so many letters, and the public have appealed to me on so many different occasions that I actually got in touch with the Queen's press secretary. I think they call themselves communication directors or some such thing nowadays. But in my day, it was the press secretary. Perfectly correct and charming man called Donald McCabe. And I was sent several different things by the public, chief of which was an announcement on the Kensington Palace website that a baby was born to the Duke and Duchess of Sussex by a surrogate. And I have asked him two questions directly. One, to confirm to me whether that announcement was genuine or not, and two, to deny that the baby was born of a surrogate. And we have gone back and forth over a period of time about this, and he has certainly confirmed to me that no such announcement was made by the Kensington Palace website. So that is a fake. To date, I am waiting for him to confirm that the baby was not born of a surrogate. There is no doubt that Meghan put on weight after the baby was born, and so she would have put on weight at around the time of the baby's birth. You can lactate even after you have not given birth, as long as you are given hormones which bring on lactation for you to breastfeed the baby. I gather she has claimed that she has breastfed the baby. I also know that she has very deliberately created a huge mystery as to when the baby was born. Actually, she and Harry plain lied about when the baby was born. So Buckingham Palace was busy making an announcement about the baby when it had already been born, saying that it was going to be born. So all of this is very suggestive of something it doesn't necessarily mean that the baby was born of a surrogate. It could mean that Meghan has created havoc by not behaving in a straightforward and trustworthy manner, that she has behaved in a way that has created suspicion amongst people, and that they have suspected X when maybe Y is what they should have been suspecting. More than that, I cannot say. I'm not going to vouch for the fact that the baby was born by a surrogate, nor am I going to vouch for the fact that the baby was not born by a surrogate. I think it's a mystery that should have been cleared up a long time ago. I don't think it's a mystery that should have arisen in the first place. I think if they were going to have the baby by a surrogate, they should have simply come clean about it. If they did not have the baby by a surrogate and she actually carried that child, I think she should have had pregnancy etiquette instruction. I think people really do require an explanation as to whether her mode of attire was so bizarre that she could look 8 months pregnant at 5 months and 5 months pregnant at 8 months. These are all valid questions. And since the baby's legitimacy is a national issue, because if it is legitimate, it is in the line of succession, and if it is illegitimate, it is out of the line of succession. And since it is not beyond the realms of possibility that the child could accede to the throne, if it is legitimate, I think that these are mysteries that Meghan is largely responsible for. Her conduct is largely responsible for the creation of these doubts. And she, I think, owes the British people and the world at large an explanation. What do you think?
Well, couldn't you just go to the the doctor's office, because everything has to be printed out the day that it was born, blood type, all of that, everything is written down nowadays.
Medical records are confidential. A doctor, if I go to...
So a birth certificate then, because that you need to be accurate for the child to continue on his life, otherwise it won't work. How many things get asked for that? I've been asked it in London. I've been here now back for 8 years. Get asked at least once or every 2 years to provide this paper.
Yes,
and it has to be legit. And like you were saying, like they haven't given him a title. That also could be like why they haven't given him a title, because he might not be legit.
But these are all issues that have arisen because of the completely mysterious and secretive way, and also at the very same time the elaborately vulgar way in which Meghan went around belly clutching and look, I'm the only woman who's ever been pregnant. Look at this load that I'm carrying. At the very moment that, nobody's allowed to know this, nobody's allowed to know that. No. The whole thing is completely unacceptable. It is an exercise in vulgarity and self-promotion, and it actually is disgusting, and people find it disgusting, and I will say I find it disgusting. As I pointed out to Donald McCabe, when the integrity of the monarchy is being questioned by people, it behooves the monarchy to actually answer the question. And I think, yes, the question should be answered, because it is their conduct that has caused this problem. It's as simple as that. and this is way beyond a privacy issue. This is way beyond an issue of taste, and this is also way beyond the ordinary protocols by which you don't deny, because you don't deny anything, because when you have to deny something that is injurious and you don't want to be caught lying, you can only get away with it as long as you deny nothing. And that's why he didn't want me to deny anything. The press secretary didn't want me to deny anything. But I don't agree with him. I pointed out to him he reminds me of my mother. When, you know, all those nasty stories about my upbringing surfaced, and I wanted to sue, Mummy said, "Oh, it's so undignified to comment on what's the gutter press are saying. You know, just rise above it." But she was wrong and he's wrong. Because, you know, had Meghan not behaved the way she did during her pregnancy, had she and Harry behaved according to royal customs and traditions, none of this would be happening. Because because the Home Secretary used to have to be present at every royal birth. The only reason why any of this is happening now is that the Home Secretary ceased to be present at royal births, because royal births then started to take place in front of competent medical authorities who could attest to the legitimacy of the child. And there was never a mystery. I go into this in my book about, you know, the warming pan incident. James, Prince of Wales, the son and heir of King James II, and his second wife, Mary of Modena, who was, she produced this perfectly healthy baby, but because she was a Catholic, the king was a Catholic, and the Protestants wanted James II's Protestant daughters to accede to the throne and not his Catholic son, they created this rumor that the baby was illegitimate, that it had been smuggled in a warming pan. And that's why thereafter you had the Home Secretary present for the birth of each royal baby. And I mean, even before that, actually, you know, the courtiers were present when royals were giving birth. And I just think the whole thing absolutely is completely unacceptable, and it rumbles on and on and on and on. And I don't think it should be allowed to continue to rumble on and on. I think the palace ought to step up to the plate, recognize the fact that when a royal misbehaves or behaves badly or behaves in unacceptably understandable ways, that it is perfectly acceptable for the public to call their conduct into question and have their doubts eradicated. And I think on that note, I should say I've said enough, I hope.
They just need a hair sample from the baby, the mother and the father, and they've got it.
Well, no, because if the baby was born of a surrogate and it was born of her egg and his sperm, but was carried by someone else, it's still illegitimate. So no.
Yes, but if it was carried by someone else, it would still pick up a DNA from someone else.
No.
Wouldn't it?
No. No, because the DNA is from the
Father and the mother,
yeah.
but the person that's carrying it also releases her DNA.
No.
Well, it must. How does the baby feed?
Well, but that doesn't alter the DNA structure. It's genetic. It's it's
I think they should still be able to pick up, because then a lot of people could do it and not trace it back.
well, that's the thing. That's the thing.
True.
True.
That is true.
Yeah. You know,
If you want to hide it.
the whole thing is completely unacceptable, and it's outrageous, and it shouldn't be allowed to continue any longer. And uh, just clear up the mystery. Of course, they created the mystery because each of them, both Harry and Meghan, have a bee in their bonnet, and both of them really are quite unstable in some ways, and both of them are irresponsible, and it's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. Next question, honey.
No worries. All right, so for our next question today is from Chrissy Richards. Lady C, you and I have some views of Diana. Reading your book, I realize that my views of Diana are realized because I'm sure you were accurate in some statements. I never thought she was shy and very manipulative person. She had her good points, but I felt very sorry for her. Do you think Harry has views of his mum that weren't true? And he has rose-colored glasses. Children always see things that you don't realize. His saying Meghan gets what Meghan wants mirrors what Diana wants Diana gets in your book. What do you think?
I think that's a very, very astute observation.
Mm.
I think that Harry was nearly 13 when Diana died, so he was really still too young to actually have truly begun to process what his mother was all about. So he will have swallowed whole what, had she died a few years later, he would have been able to digest in rather more manageable chunks, the way William did. Those few years, I think, made a huge difference. Uh, Harry clearly believes that Diana was something she really wasn't. He believes, according to what he has said, he takes his mother at her estimate of herself and her value of herself. Well, Diana was the sort of person who any dirty deed, and she committed many dirty deeds, was dressed up with noble motives. He has never taken in account the dirty deeds. He just thinks if the motives are noble, it doesn't matter what the deeds are. But it does matter what the deeds are. That's why he's with the woman he's with, and that's why he's the person he is. Because neither Harry nor Meghan really has a particularly nuanced view of morality. They seem to think that if they tell themselves and tell everybody else that they are wonderful, everybody must believe it, and it's got to be true. But that's not true. That's not what ethics are about, and that's not what spiritual development is about. One of the cornerstones of morality is that each of us is flawed, each of us is imperfect, each of us has mixed motives. And even when we are doing good, there might be aspects of our demeanor or motivation that are questionable. that is how you need to judge your conduct and the conduct of other people. You need to judge it on a sliding scale of absolute positivity to absolute negativity, with everything in between, assessed, and you weigh what is good and what is not. I mean, Harry and Meghan have done a tremendous amount of damage, not only to the royal family and to their family, because it's her family as well as his. But they have done a lot of damage to themselves. They don't realize it, but they have stepped down from one of the greatest positions on earth to hustle and maneuver and manipulate and reach out and behave like really third-rate, tacky, pseudo operators who are busy thinking they're so wonderful and that everybody's going to buy their rubbish, when half the world has seen through them and seen them for the statues with not only feet of clay, legs of clay, maybe even bodies of clay. So no, I think that Meghan is a lot like Diana in the ways that Diana was destructive, and I think she dresses up Diana's positives and tries to pass them off as if they are her innate virtues when everybody can see they're not. I mean, Diana did have many wonderful qualities, and that's why people liked Diana. And that's why Diana is still a revered figure, because she did genuinely have virtues that Meghan aspires to, projects possession of, but it doesn't convince most people that she has them. You know, she's a little bit too glib, a little bit too practiced, a little bit rankling of insincerity for people to buy what they regard as a lie. But Harry has bought it all, because first of all, Harry isn't very bright, and secondly, Harry has the unfortunate experience of having somebody who's reminiscent of his mother and who's busy pressing all of his buttons, Oedipally acting out the virtues of his mother, and everybody can see but Harry. I mean, my understanding is that William saw it loud and clear from the very beginning, you know.
It comes back to our first question.
Which is?
About, like, would you let Dima or me?
Oh, yes. Well, William didn't want it either. William didn't want it either. And my understanding is neither the Queen nor Prince Philip wanted it. But Harry went hell for leather because he was besotted, and he's still right there, you know. But I've seen it with Mummy. Where a very clever woman who is intent on captivating a man for her own advancement and for her own profit will pull out all the stops, and it works. And it works. And the thing is, people like, you know, their victims don't necessarily see through them. Everybody else can see that they're as fraudulent as a $4 bill. but the victim doesn't see it.
Mm.
The feeding ground doesn't see it. Now, I'm not saying that that is necessarily true of Meghan with Harry, and I make this distinction for legal reasons. But it's certainly true of, it was true of Mummy, and it's certainly true of the personality type that people consider Meghan to be. And on that note, do you think I've covered it?
Yeah, no, so I think you've covered it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. So, is that it for today?
Yes, that was our last question. Yeah, that was it.
Lovely. Lovely. Thank you very much, honey.
No worries.
Thank you, everybody. Do keep the questions coming in.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, hit the like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. Thank you very much, and goodbye.